Hi and welcome back to Classic MGB. Now today we are at a fantastic venue. It's Brooklands Circuit, opened just after the turn of the 20th century and closed just after the Second World War. It was the first purpose-built motor racing circuit, and today we're here to celebrate MG100. So let's see what's about. Now, here's an interesting car. It's a Jacques Coune special. So it's basically an MGB, but it's got completely different bodywork, similar to a GT, but not quite the same. It's got the flared in headlights as well. So an interesting car. And do you know what? This one's actually for sale. Now, there's quite a few competition MGBs here, and this one is probably the most famous because it was driven by no less than racing legend Stirling and rally legend Roger Clark. The car was built in 1963, so it's over 60 years old, and it's been built to full BMC competition department spec. It has been used in a lot of classic marathons and classic racing. So a really interesting car. Staying with the competition theme, here is a car that actually raced at Lemans, and at the wheel no less than Paddy, Hopkirk and Andrew Hedges, 1965. So this was racing when my mother was pregnant with me. Here's a really famous competition car. It's the Marathon MGB. It covered the London to Sydney Marathon in 1968. I'm not going to say too much about it because we've got a special coming up on the channel, and when it's released we'll pop it in the description. Now, I found a really nice car for sale. It's a Sebring GT, and I'm with Simon Rowley, who's actually selling it. So Simon, tell me about the car.
Well, I've had it about a year and sort of picked it up on a whim, to be honest. It's the second MGB I've had. The previous one was standard chrome, all the usual sort of stuff, and this one stood out, and I thought that's a bit different, and yeah, got carried away on bidding and bought it, really.
So you bought it fully restored?
Yes. Fortunately, someone who spent a lot of time on it said it was a 5-year restoration, retirement project, bare metal, shell, nut and bolts, absolutely everything was done to it. There's
something about the Sebring look, isn't there, that makes it kind of stand out from a standard GT?
Yeah, that's it really. There's obviously the traditional Sebring without the wide arches, sort of fairly common, I suppose, but there's very few with the wide arches front and rear, and obviously that required the adjustment of the track, suspension, everything. So yeah, it does stand out, and that's one of the nice things about it. I think that's what drew me to it, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about the interior? Is there much done to the interior?
Yeah, the whole interior has been stripped, fully. Sound deadening, which is probably a good thing. It's got a full stainless exhaust on it. Bucket seats, so leather sort of Corvo style bucket seats, race harness, fire extinguisher, roll bar, and then custom dashboard. So it's a 72-73 model. It's got the toggle switches and sort of leather tops and all that sort of stuff.
Superb. And under the bonnet, standard 1800 or tweaked?
Pretty standard, yeah. So it's been rebuilt and rebored. Got K&N filter, SU carbs, those sort of things. So I think there's some room for tweaks in there with sort of fast cams, maybe stage 1, stage 2, just to make it go a bit more like it looks, really. I think that would be what it needs.
Well, I've got to be honest, there's not many GTs that would persuade me to get rid of mine, but this could well be one. I hope you sell it. And if you're looking for a really nice Sebring GT, it's well worth a call. Have a look at this number. One of the highlights of today is the opportunity for owners to be able to drive their cars up the hill, which is really quite a steep hill you can see behind me. And all manner of cars have been going up, midgets, lots and lots of MGBs and MGB-GTs. Now, we know Brooklands is very, very famous for motor racing, but it's actually a very famous place for aviation as well. Many planes were built here. There was a lot of innovation done here. There's a test area, which is a barometric chamber, which tests aircraft to their extremes. So it's quite fascinating. And Barnes Wallis developed the bouncing bomb here as well. And as you can see behind me, there's still a lot of planes about. Now, we couldn't come to Brooklands without taking a look at, I think, one of the most fantastic aircraft ever produced. Of course, it is Concorde, and the world's first, and I think generally the world's only supersonic airliner, sadly out of service now, but what a fantastic, fantastic aeroplane and a great legacy for the British aviation industry. Now, the MG Car Club have been absolutely instrumental in supporting the Centenary, and this is the last big event. The cavalcade will be continuing for the next few weeks, but this is the last major Centenary event. So if you want any of their merchandise, t-shirts, polo shirts and various other things, head over to the MG Car Club shop and get your credit card out. So those of you that have watched the channel have seen me have a go at my little home simulator. I'm now in an F1 simulator about to go around Brooklands, so wish me luck. Although most of the Brooklands circuit doesn't exist anymore, this simulation faithfully replicates the circuit in its heyday, although I suspect it's a fair bit smoother than it was 100 years ago. The circuit is basically an egg-shaped oval, with one major difference. It has a slight kink in one of the sides called the fork, designed to catch out unwary drivers, just like me.
Whoa! Oh dear, no, we've gone wrong. Oh dear. Yeah, that went well.
Now, Brooklands is a really interesting museum because it's not just in one place, it's in lots of different huts around the site. So it's fascinating. You're kind of discovering things as you go along. And I've discovered this one. It's a 1931 M-Type, and it was actually raced in the 1930 Brooklands Double 12 race. What a lovely little car. Well, guess who I found? I found Cecil Kimber. He's not the most talkative man, but I do know that he's been travelling from John O'Groats to Land's End, so I hope he enjoys the journey. Now, one of the biggest attractions at Brooklands is the Napier-Railton. What a fantastic car. And I'm very lucky to have caught up with one of the other stars of Brooklands. It's Ralph Brough. Ralph, tell me about the museum.
Indeed, the Museum Brooklands, sometimes known as the best kept secret in Surrey, is in fact famous for being one of the very first motor racing circuits in the world. Opened in 1907, and at that time the corners on the circuit were banked because they felt that that might be the way ahead for cars of the future to go round corners. It transpired not to be, but that was the opening gambit of Brooklands. Built, I might add, in someone's back garden.
So your particular area of expertise is this fantastic Napier-Railton. Tell me about the car.
Yes, indeed. I'm fortunate that in the week when I'm dressed rather like a mechanic, along with my dear colleague, and we look after this wonderful old motor car here, which was actually built at Brooklands on site by Thompson and Taylor, who in those days, someone quite wealthy, could order a record-breaking motor car, and this is one of them.
So what's the details of the car? Can you tell me a bit about the sort of spec and stuff?
It is essentially a 24-litre aircraft engine-powered car. Its power is around about 600 brake horsepower, and it was built in 1933 to the order of John Cobb, who was a local personality and a gentleman of some wealth.
600 brake horsepower going through these tiny tyres. And what sort of speed would the car be able to have achieved?
Well, 600 brake horsepower in a straight line would approach in the late 170s, possibly 180 with the following wind. It was particularly designed not for ultimate speed, but for endurance runs. That is, a tremendously high speed, night and day, which changes only for drivers and tyres. Tyres would wear out in 2 to 3 hours at that speed, in that particular period.
So what's it like to drive? I mean, is you know, if I drive a modern car, I drive an MGB, could I drive something like that? Does it take a bit of an extra skill?
Right. I could not answer if you could drive it, but I'm sure you could. I imagine it's similar to standing at the back of a container ship and trying to steer the thing. And the brakes match that concept as well. That is, there are no brakes at the front, and the back ones aren't very good.
So that's a day at Brooklands for the MG100 Centenary, the final celebration of 100 years of MG. And we had to end it on this banking. I cannot believe people drove cars around here at 150 miles an hour. They must have been mad. If you've enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you could subscribe, that would be great. And click the bell for notifications so you can be notified whenever we upload new content. As always, thanks for watching and take care.